Shalom, everybody. This is going to be my 5th video on this. Yeshua is not Yahweh in the flesh, and tonight I'm going to be talking about basically one verse, John 8:58. Before Abraham was, I am. And that's a pretty important one. I just tried to cover verses that a lot of Trinitarians and people who believe in the deity of Yeshua, they bring up. The big ones, so to speak. And this one is one that many people cite. And they're making the claim that when Yeshua said before Abraham was I am, that he was claiming to be the I am in Exodus 3, chapter 3, verse 14, when Yahweh was talking to Moses. And I'm going to try to show tonight very clearly that that is not the case. It's not really hard to show. This will probably be, it's going to be a short video tonight because it's just going to focus on this, but very important. You know, many people have heard people use the phrase, the I ams of Jesus. Okay, that Yeshua said I am multiple times, and somehow that proves that he's the Almighty. All right, and the word I am is ego eimi or ego eimi in the Greek, and it's used multiple times in John chapter 8, and that's important to keep that in context. Okay, also, it's also used other times by people in the writings of the apostles that nobody ever claimed that they were saying they were the Almighty in the flesh. Okay, for example, John chapter 9, verse 9, the blind man said, I am. A centurion said, I am in Matthew chapter 28. John the Baptist said, I am in John chapter 1, verse 20. Okay, you would look this up for yourself. I'm just tossing it out there. You need to do your own research. I just want to keep it in context. Okay, at least four times in John chapter 8, Yeshua used the word I am. He used that phrase, not the word, the phrase I am. He used it in John chapter 8, verse 12, verse 18, verse 24, verse 28, and then later on 8:58. Those are the ones I found there. And remember, at this point, the Jews were already upset with him. They wanted to kill him. They were misunderstanding him. He accused them of being their father is the devil, basically. So they were pretty upset with him at this point, long before John chapter 8, verse 58. All right, so let's look at John chapter 8, verse 24. Okay, this is what Yeshua said. He said, unless you believe that I am, you will die in your sins. Let's think about this for a minute. Okay, unless you believe that I am what? What was he saying there? Is he saying that unless you believe that I am the I am of Exodus 3:14, you're going to die in your sins? Does that make any sense? I mean, I've already discussed in prior videos, nobody ever taught that they had to believe Yeshua was the Almighty. That has nothing to do with them dying for their sins. They're going to die in their sins. So what could he possibly... Well, what did they have to believe about him? They had to believe he was the Messiah. Very simple, very plain. I am. And you notice in some of your translations it has the he in italics. Well, that's added there. That's not in the text. It's simply the phrase I am. And then John 8:28. When you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am. And I do nothing on my own initiative, but I speak the things as the Father taught me. Once again, I am what? When they lift up the Son of Man, you're going to know what? That he's the Almighty in the flesh? Obviously not. That makes absolutely no sense. When they lift up the Son of Man, they will know he's the Messiah. Why? Because he will resurrect. He will resurrect. That's when they're going to know that he's the Messiah. Very important. Very, very clear here. He's not claiming to be the I am of Exodus chapter 3. I hope you can see that very clear there. Now, I use a Greek interlinear. I would go to a Greek interlinear, compare the Greek words here, because they're used at least four times prior to John 8:58. And notice in John chapter 8, verse 28, this is really important here. He said, I do nothing on my own initiative, but I speak the things as the Father taught me. What do you mean the Father taught him? If he's the Almighty, you don't teach the Almighty anything. You see how clear that is? That when he's lifted up and then he's going to rise from the dead, they will know he's the Messiah. But he's not speaking his own words. He's doing everything the Father taught him and told him to do. So if he was the Almighty in the flesh, that's not possible. You don't teach Yahweh anything. And people might say, well, that was when he was a man. Well, but the Trinitarian doctrine teaches that he was fully God and fully man at the same time. So how is that possible? It doesn't make absolutely any sense whatsoever. And this is a verse that I used to use also. Because when you believe this, like I said before, these verses seem to back up your belief until you take a really close look at them. When you take a close look at them, then it's not so black and white like you used to think it was. So again, I am what? I am the Messiah. It's the only thing that makes sense. And again, they have he in italics. It makes no sense to just say I am. See, the I am is just an identifier. That's all it is. That's why when the blind man, they wanted to know, he said, I am he. I'm the one you're looking for. I am. He didn't say the phrase, I am who I am. I'm going to get at that in a minute. So, John 8:58. Before Abraham was, I am. Well, what does that mean? What was he? I am what? Again, I am what? Now this time, some of the translations don't have the he in italics. And see, translators are biased just like everybody else. I've mentioned that before. They put the he in italics to kind of make some sense out of it. But when it comes to John 8:58, the he's not in italics. And maybe some translations have it. I haven't looked at all of them. So before Abraham was, I am. Well, was Yeshua preordained as the Messiah? Right? Was he in Yahweh's plan? Absolutely. Absolutely he was. So before Abraham, he was already ordained. And they misunderstood him. They already misunderstood him many times. And, you know, at that point, they picked up stones to stone him, right? Because they said, you're making yourself Elohim. Why didn't they pick up stones in John 8:24 or 28 if he's claiming to be the Almighty? Because he wasn't. He wasn't claiming to be the Almighty. It's very easy to see this. You just have to look at it, do a little research, and you'll see what I'm saying is absolutely true. Okay? And I have a Septuagint, okay, and it has the Greek and the English there, the Breton Septuagint. And you can look that up very easily. Look at Exodus chapter 3 and look up when he said, I am that I am. Okay? Yeshua said the first part, I am. Now the Septuagint translated, I am the being. I am the being. Yeshua just said the first part, I am. Just like the blind man, the centurion, John the Baptist, and others. They weren't claiming to be the I am of Exodus 3:14. You know, when you look at this, it's like, okay, it's pretty obvious, but so many people believe that. And I think it's just because they're never really challenged on it, and they don't research it themselves. All you have to do is look at it. Look at the Septuagint and compare it to the Greek interlinear of the writing of the apostles. And if you want to look at Revelation chapter 1, verse 4, it says, who is and was to come. That's clearly talking about the Father. I'll read the verse here. And John, to the 7 churches of in Asia, grace to you and peace from him who is and was and is to come, and from the 7 spirits who are before his throne. Now, if you look that up in Greek, it's the word the being there. Okay, so that's the being, the one who is, the being. That's Exodus chapter 3. That's clearly the Father there. So Yeshua was never claiming to be the I am of Exodus. He was just using it as an identifier. I am the Messiah. Okay? Makes perfect sense. I told you this was going to be a short video. Do your own research. Throw me some comments. I got one more video on this, and that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. Go on to another subject. You can go on forever on the deity. But, you know, you got to keep kind of things short. I feel like I gave enough information out there for people to do their own studying and see that I'm not just throwing this out because I want to believe this, but the evidence is there. So I'll see you next time. I'm going to be talking about the delegation of authority and just wrapping up Yeshua is not Yahweh in the flesh. And then I'm going on to my next subject, which is going to be trying to show Yeshua is the Messiah from the Tanakh. But I believe there's lots of evidence there. Shalom, everybody.